Yesterday we talked about servlet context. Right? We had seen a few methods, just a few corrections there. Okay, some method names. One was, no, we don't have the method called get display name. The method is get servlet context name. So for our back to the servlet context and the kind of methods we have seen. Yeah, what are the methods here? Servlet context. That's servlet context brings up information, some of the information from the web.xml file. Okay, one of them is a display name, right? So whatever is specified as the display name will be available by using the method which returns a string. The method is get servlet context name. Okay, yeah, what else was available in servlet context? Fine, the context param, whatever entries were there as context parameter, when they would be available as, so you can return, it can return an enumeration of string. Okay, method is get init parameter names. Yes, the context param entries which are there in the web.xml file, all the param names for that. Right? And then for any given param name, we can get the param value with the help of method get init parameter. Yeah. What else? Server info. Fine, we have the method to return a string. Get server info. Yeah. Then get major version, get minor version, returns integer value. And they return integers. Then getting the get real path returns a string. And takes a string in which we say, and you can just say it's a URL. In the sense, this starts with a slash. There's something which has to start with a slash, right? Starts with a slash. Okay. This slash corresponds to the root of the application. Right? So any resource, right, can be converted into the actual physical path. Okay. A virtual path can be converted to a physical path. Then get, I talked about method called get resource as stream. Fine, we have this method get resource as a stream, which would also take something which starts with a slash, but this would return a input stream so that you can read from it. Okay, you can straight away read. This must be some existing thing. Okay, fine, but you are giving relative to your root of the application. Fine. The other method I think which I had told was get resources. No, the method name is get resource paths. Okay, sorry, get resource paths. The parameter there would be Fine. The parameter is that URL only. Fine, which corresponds to some directory. So get resource paths is returning a string array. Let's even returning a string array or an enumeration of string, I'm not sure. Okay, either an enumeration or a string array. Just verify that. But and that's for getting list directory listing is get resource paths. And I think I mentioned get resources. So that's the other correction we have. Okay. Yeah. What else? Yeah. Yes. Getting the named dispatcher, request dispatcher, those two things. Okay. So we have the methods for get request dispatcher. Again, give a path. Fine. And this will return a object of request dispatcher. Or you can get a request dispatcher by using get named dispatcher. This is available only for, what is this available? Here also a string, but this is your servlet name. This is only available for servlets whose servlet entry is available in WebXML. Only for them you can use the get name dispatcher because you are using the servlet name entry. Okay, so getting that as a resource request dispatcher, and you can create a request dispatcher for that. Okay, yeah, what else? I think this was fine. Okay, a few more things here. We can add a few things to the servlet context. Not only servlet context, there are even other objects also which are capable of managing objects for us. Okay, it's nothing but like you give a name and store some object in this. Fine, give a name and store some object temporarily. Oh, I have got some result. Let me keep this object here. See, we understand one thing about servlet context. This object is going to stay. This is only one object for my entire application. Fine. See, when the container would start, it says, oh, this is one of the applications. Fine. It creates one object of servlet context. Fine. And this object is going to be available till my application is up. Single object. And there are not multiple objects. Okay. And this stays. So what has been done here is they have made a provision of storing, allowing someone to store objects in this object. So our servlet object, servlet context object can have more objects. We call them as attributes. Right? So we can set up attributes in this object. Okay, fine. Just like we put something in a map. So it's like internally this has got some map where it can manage all the objects, whatever we want to store temporarily or permanently maybe. Fine. Okay. Say for example, I have got some results or something. Maybe when my application starts, maybe I would like to load certain things and keep it ready for whenever someone connects. Okay, he wants certain information, and it's going to stay static, right? Okay, but it has to be something which is loaded from database. Okay, so load from database and keep the objects somewhere. Okay, where do I keep them? That's one place. Keep them in this place so that you don't have to each and every time go to the database and fetch the same information again and again. Maybe there's some static information, right? But it has to come from database each time, right? When the application starts. Okay, so such things could be managed in the object of servlet context. So if you want to manage your own objects in servlet context by giving them some name, it's available. We call them as attributes, and therefore we have these four set of methods. Okay, this is standard 4 set of methods. It's available not only in servlet context, we'll find them in other kind of objects also. Wherever objects, we say attributes, you can manage attributes. Fine, so you manage attributes for your servlet context. So servlet context has methods for attribute. It has a method called set attribute. So this is 4 methods. Okay, set attribute takes 2 parameters, a string for giving the name, and second parameter is the object which you want to keep. So some object, okay, so you are storing an object by giving it some name. It can be retrieved by this name from the same servlet context object. Okay, fine. This would have a return type of void set attribute. This is method called get attribute parameter name. What does it return? Object. Fine. So some results or something which you have processed and maybe want to keep it with the application. Fine. Set attribute, get attribute. I said there are 4 methods, right? So oh, a number of objects may have been set here. So we have method to get, which would return enumeration. Oops. Enumeration of string, get attribute names, and get attribute names, and a method called remove attribute. Parameter would be a string, name of an attribute, and that can be removed from the context. Return type would be void here. And see these 4 set of methods for managing attributes. We manage attributes not only in servlet context, you can manage attributes also in your servlet request. Why such a thing is available? We have a request dispenser for that. Fine, so servlet context important methods. Clear? Find some of the things which you can try out. Okay. Then go to the top. Int parameter. And so this is servlet context. Okay. Yeah. Next. Yeah, we looked at servlet config. Methods are clear, I think. There are only 4 methods. What were those 4 things? It can give us the context. So get servlet context. It can give us the servlet's name. And it can give us the init parameter. So 2 methods for getting the init parameters. Parameter names. And for a given parameter name, so you can get the corresponding value, get parameter. Okay. And same way, servlet 5 methods. Servlet's 5 methods. 5 methods. 3 are the lifecycle methods. Starts with init, service, and destroy. Those 3 are the lifecycle. In init, we are given servlet config. So we should be able to return that. So get servlet config, that's a method, and a method to give information about the servlet. Okay, so get servlet info. That way we have 5 methods for servlet. Okay, fine. And then we saw servlet response. Yeah, servlet response. A few methods we missed out, so I'll just bring those out. Yeah, yeah. Servlet response. What kind of methods did we have? It has a buffer, right? So what methods did we have? Get set method for buffer size. Okay, fine. So you have method to return integer value, get buffer size. I think by default initial buffer size is 8192, 8K. That's a default buffer size most of the time. Okay. Anyway, it could be different. Another thing is void set buffer size. Now, when we say set buffer size and we are giving a buffer size, okay, what it would also like to do, it's not that whatever buffer size you give, it will be exactly that much. It will ensure at least that much. Fine. Maybe it would always allocate in terms of multiples of 512. So might give an odd figure. Fine. For the buffer size, it's ensuring that much. Okay. Fine. Then we should be able to, yeah, buffer has a state. It's committed or it's not committed. So a method to return Boolean value. Then what will commit? Flush buffer. And you can flush the buffer. Okay. Fine. Metadata is get and set methods for content type. Okay. So content type is a string if you are using getter method. There's also a set. Okay. Get content type and set content type. Fine. The MIME type. When we understand the MIME type, right? Major, minor, slash minor. Okay. Set content. Get set for content type. What else? Fine. We have a buffer. Fine. We want to be able to write or read from the buffer. Okay. Fine. So we have the methods for reading and writing from the buffer, right? So we have to be able to read from write to the buffer, not reading. Sorry, it's about writing to the buffer. To enable writing to the buffer, what do we have? Okay, let's finish the other get set methods. What were the other get set method? Content type.
Get character encoding.
Yeah, get and set for character encoding. Okay, should return a string. Set the character encoding. You can specify a character set name here. Okay. Other gets locale. Fine. Get set for locale. Get locale and set locale. And if you can set, you can get. You can specify a locale. Get locale returns a locale. What's the current locale setting? Yeah. What else?
Get writer.
the get method for writer, get writer and get output stream. There's one for get output stream. Other method is get writer, get output stream returns servlet output stream. There is a class called the servlet output stream, which subclass is from the output stream. Okay, and get writer returns the print writer. Okay, now there are two more methods. Okay, but these methods would not work if committed is true. If it's been committed, these methods will throw exception. See, it's like we saw, we have our response object, right? What does it have? It has a buffer and it has metadata settings, right? Character encoding, content type, all those are settings, metadata settings. Plus content is there. Fine. So now what we have here is a method. We have two methods here. There's a method called reset buffer and other is the method called reset. What do they do? When I say reset, okay, reset buffer.
Make it clear.
Fine. It has to clear anything which was written into the buffer. But this can't be done if you have committed. Something was already sent out. Now you can't reset it. When reset buffer is, oh, whatever I have written, I don't want to send it. I would like to put something else here. Fine. My content has to be something different and therefore I'm doing a reset buffer. And start writing again. Okay. And what's a reset? It will do reset buffer as well as resetting of the metadata. Yeah, the content type, everything. Okay. Whatever settings you had done, lost, whatever is that are the defaults, it will be brought back to that. Clear? Fine, those two methods are the other methods we have in the servlet response. Okay, fine, so this was the other thing I had done. Now, another thing which was missing, we didn't discuss rather. Recollect the entry in the web.xml file. What were the entries we made?
Display name,
Okay,
parameter,
yeah. Related to servlet now, let's just talk about the servlet. So what was done was we have servlet entries which would indicate the objects to be created, identified by some name, and then we had the servlet mapping. Yeah, what was the servlet mapping like? Let's look at the servlet mapping. Yeah, what does servlet mapping look like? What does it have? Identifies the object. Okay, so we have the servlet name. So you have some servlet name and we give a URL pattern. Yes, this URL pattern. Yeah, how do we write this URL pattern? Okay, there are three forms of URL pattern. Okay, when you specify a URL pattern, what goes here, fine, that's what we want to look at here. There are three different ways of specifying a URL pattern. One is very commonly used. You can give a fixed URL. Okay, but when you give a fixed URL, you always start with a slash. Okay, so kind of things which go here, fine. Okay, slash servlet mapping would be there. So what goes here is, one is fixed. Fixed will be something like slash create, something like this, slash create. there's nothing like, oh, you can't have an extension. You can put any extension you like. That's okay. And you can have something which is fixed, and it can have paths also. So it is slash something, but there is a fixed pattern. Fine. There's a fixed thing which has been specified. Fine. You have a full path. You can give extension. Okay. Fine. Whatever. Fine. So you have a well specified path. That's one option. Here you will always start with a slash. Okay. Fine. So whatever, for example, if I've used just slash create, or someone might say slash uh, invoice slash create, it may be that way. Right? So when someone says slash invoice slash create, and this is part of which application? Inventory application. So for the end user, what is the URL? If this is belonging to the inventory application, what is the URL for the end user? Yeah, host, right? Slash, the application name is inventory, we are assuming, and then all this slash. Okay, that's the URL to be entered from the browser. For the end user, this is the URL. So when you are writing a servlet mapping, your URL pattern, when it says slash, this is slash means root of your application. Within your application, it starts. Okay, fine. So one form is giving a fixed one. Another option now is we can use wildcards. Okay, so wildcard can be in the form of, someone can say, okay, in case you have slash invoice slash star, it ends in a slash star. It's not like slash a star or something like that. No, you can't do that. Okay, slash star. The ending part is slash star in this case. You have any path, you can have any level of path. Fine. You can have slash ABC slash XYZ slash star. At the end, there is a slash star. The things which end in a, you have URL patterns which end in a slash star. Okay, but they start with a slash again. They would start with a slash. They have some initial path. Fine. Or someone could even do this. Someone could say, okay, let me have slash star straight away. Oh, that's also valid. Fine. Even slash star is a valid thing here in URL pattern. It would mean everything. All resources. This is the servlet which will handle all resources. Okay. Fine. So you're indicating this would handle all resources. But whenever there is such a thing, what will be done is you have other servlet mappings also. It will try to see where the highest length of the path matches. Wherever it matches, that will be picked up first. So if there is a slash star, that's going to be the last in the priority. And if it doesn't match anywhere, then this one. Clear? Ending in slash star. So your initial path is fixed. But then after that path, anything. So slash invoice slash star. So any URL which says slash invoice, and then it might have written some path. It's going to, oh, this is the particular servlet which should be mapped. And so you're able to specify a URL pattern using wildcard like this. This is path based wildcard. Another one is extension based. Fine. Another one is based on extension. In case you want to specify the extension based thing, you don't put a slash here. Okay, you start with a star. It's always of the form star dot some extension. You might create your own extensions. Fine. you have your application, and your application is you have some short form of your application. Okay, okay. My it might be what, my inventory system, so MIS, let's say, right? And what you might like to do here is, okay, let me have star.mis. Okay, maybe star.mis as a URL pattern. So your URL pattern may be just this much, star.mis. What would happen in such a case? Any path, whatever the initial path may be, but the end, the extension is .mis, something .mis. Okay, in that case, this is the servlet to be used. You can map your servlet to handle a particular kind of extension. This servlet will handle all these any extension of this kind. So that could also be done. Fine. Someone might think, okay, let me fool people into believing that this is handling ASP, and someone can start at ASP. Yeah. And people will see, oh, you have your ASPs here. Yeah. Fine. But something which is nothing but, it's just a URL. See, what you see here is just a path which is an input to the server. What happens, how the server handles that path is up to the server to decide. It's not a fixed thing which is to be done. Okay, it's not a file which is to be sent back. Okay, the extension, the names which you have in the URL, they are not file names necessarily. Okay, they're just path as an input going to the server, and the server would then decide what it wants to do, how it wants to handle. If it finds there is some servlet mapping, I'll put it there. If I don't find a servlet mapping, let me see if physically it matches some path. If it physically matches some file name there, okay, then I need to read the content of that file and send it. Okay, that static content thing. It will always try the mapping first and then decide to go for static content, whether such a static content exists or not. Fine? Clear? URL pattern. 3 URL patterns, 3 ways of specifying URL pattern. Fixed one or path based. Fine? Path, a wildcard in a path, or extension based. Fine? Wildcard for a extension. Okay, fine. So we have seen a lot of things now. Now what we want to do is the actual work, right? Yesterday I think we discussed about writing our first servlet called the hello servlet, fine, by implementing the servlet interface. Fine. There were 5 methods. We saw how they can be implemented. So now coming to the actual thing, let's talk about Tomcat. Fine. Fine. We may use Tomcat. So if you have to use Tomcat, setting up Tomcat, how it can be done. Setting up Tomcat would be, for Tomcat you normally can download a zip file. That is fine. From their website you can download the zip file, extract it in some folder, okay, and rename it to a smaller name. It might turn out to be Apache Tomcat so and so something. You can rename it as Tomcat 8 if it is version 8. Fine. So if it is fine, so maybe if it's a Windows environment, you might rename it and push it back into C:\\Tomcat 8 instead of something inside the program files. Yes, you can have something like this also. Fine. Whatever is the folder you extracted, make it this way. So in this folder, you will find certain folders. There's one folder called conf. There's another folder called, okay, this is backside, yeah. Okay, fine. It would be a slash if it's a Linux, fine. Okay, you'll have a folder called bin. You'll have the folder called web app. Web apps S. Okay, you would like to be able to use the administration part, and for that we have some password thing. So what you need to do is, in the conf there is some folder, there's one file called Tomcat Users Dot Xml. Okay, in this you can create one user. Fine, it's quite simple. You can go there and define one user who would be a admin user. Fine, give him the administrative rights. So create one user. You can define the username, the password, and what roles it can have. Fine. So fine, when we read that file, it becomes clear. The file specifies all that what needs to be done. Okay, the bin folder has the commands for starting and stopping the Tomcat server. So you have in bin folder, you've got the startup. Okay, you have the batch file .bat file for Windows environment and .sh file for Linux environment. So there's a startup and shutdown.sh as well as .batch files. Okay, so the zip file contains everything for both Linux as well as for Windows. Okay, so that's for starting and shutting the Tomcat server. Okay, in the web app folder, you might find some ready-made applications. There's one special name. One application name there's a special name for one of the applications. It is called Capital Root. Okay, this application is nothing but, this is the application which is the application called slash. The application doesn't have a name after that. So any resources under root which you keep, okay, right? You normally have folder in web apps. You are keeping all your web applications, but this particular application named root corresponds to the root application. Okay, fine. So it's like if you say http:// how it will be note? http:// host port number. Oh, by default Tomcat starts on port number 8080, and then you'll use a slash, and then we say, oh, we use the application name. No, though it is capital root, there's no application called capital root. This itself means the root. So through this, anything here is accessible to me here. If there is a static content inside the root folder, any content here, that's available to me here. Okay, no application name to be specified. That's a root one. Fine. Otherwise, yes, you have your, let's say we wanted an inventory application, or we'll have a folder inventory here. Fine, which would then here also within root you'll have your web INF and other things. So this would have that web INF. Okay, and there will be your classes and lib folder. Okay, the web.xml is also here. Fine. You want some static things, it would be directly under inventory itself. Okay. Fine. In that case, how do we access it? Slash inventory slash the resources. Resources are your web.xml contains URL patterns. Fine. The servlet mapping specifies the URL patterns. Those all become your resources. Plus static content. They become the resources. Fine. Okay. Okay, a few more things related to setting up of Tomcat. Now, some of the things may not be necessary, but Tomcat usually would require two environment variables to be set. One is you need to set up and indicate where is JDK installed. So you set up a variable called Java underscore home, fine, to wherever JDK is installed. Okay. For example, in case of Windows environment, you might say, okay, Java home is C colon backslash program files backslash Java, I think, right? And backslash JDK 1.8.0 underscore something. That's it. Don't give bin here. Home, where JDK has been installed. You are not giving the path where Java C command is available. Okay, just where JDK was installed. That is Java home. And other setting will be an environment variable called Catalina underscore home, right? Which you will, for example, set it to, oh, where is your Tomcat installed? So I mentioned that, okay, let's make it simple, just for a reason that, yes, when you set up Catalina home, you won't have to give a big name. You can just set it to this one, SQL backslash Tomcat 8. That's it. Two environment variables you may have to set up. Fine. Just set up the two environment variables. Tomcat should function properly. Fine.
There will be no columns which show
There's nothing. No,
column, semicolon.
no. There's single values, not multiple values. Fine. So we have the Java home, we have the Catalina home. Two environment variables to be set. Okay. Yeah, with this, I think. So what you will be doing? What I advise you to do is create under web apps or okay here, because it's Linux. Okay, you have the facility of creating links. Fine. So we have Tomcat installed. So wherever the Tomcat is installed, okay, in Tomcat we'll just create a link to our home folder. Not the home folder. Within home folder, we have the home folder as what? /home/ajava1602, right? So our folder is here is /home/ajava1602. Okay, so in this, I advise you to create one more folder called web app. Okay, this is nothing but our application. This will treat it as our application. Okay, so in this you create your web INF and other things. Fine, have one folder web app. Okay, this is not the name of your application. Name of the application will be the name which we use under the web apps folder of Tomcat. Okay, now wherever Tomcat is installed, right? So we have Tomcat installed here. Probably, I think in most of the machines here, we have Tomcat as a separate user. So in that Tomcat user, one thing we'll have to compromise here is the permissions for this. We'll have to permit it, fine, make it 755. Okay, normally it's not, this would not be accessible to other users, but we want to make it accessible to the Tomcat. Tomcat here is a separate user. Okay, so then you can have in Tomcat. So there is home slash Tomcat 8, for example. So Tomcat 8 is a user, okay, and in that user, this is where we have bin and all those things available. That's the home of Tomcat. Catalina home is this one. Okay, that's a case here. Okay, so now what you will do is, in this there is the web apps folder. Okay, one of the folders is the web apps folder, and here you will create a link by the name of a Java 1602. This will be linked to the web app folder which you have here. So the application becomes a Java 1602. Your application name will be a Java 1602. This will be a link, not a folder. You just create a link. Fine. For example, logging in Tomcat, I might use ln link minus s, symbolic link. Okay. I'm assuming I'm in the web apps folder here. So I'll say link. What do I want to link? So from /home /a Java 1602 /web app to be linked as a Java 1602. That's a command. Fine. So you are in web apps. So a Java 1602 created as a link for home a Java 1602 web apps. And so that's your folder which is in your home. And then you keep working on your home. You don't have to come to Tomcat. Tomcat has to be you just log in into Tomcat and just start it once. Fine. It should work. Okay. Fine. So we can start this. Yeah. And I'll try to demonstrate here or sometime. Or you want to do it? Start, correct? Fine. Hello Servlet, yes. Do that hello Servlet initially, get hello Servlet working, and then add more functionality into that same hello Servlet. Fine, use more methods, use the methods. It's the output, you can output anything. Use the methods of ServletContext, print out the server info, fine. Print out other information from the server. ServletContext, experiment with methods of ServletContext. Just check what methods you can try out. Okay. Fine.